If you just got a FineVu DashCam and are wondering how to use the app, this is the video for you. I'm gonna walk you through all of its features, show you how it works, as well as my personally recommended settings for it. Now, I'm personally using the app with my GX1000 dashcam. However, the features that I'm gonna show you and all the options that I'm gonna show you are gonna be very similar from dashcam to dashcam. Some are gonna have less items on the menu and some are gonna have more items on the menu as far as the app, depending on what capability your FineVu dashcam supports. If you guys wanna see the full review for the GX1000 dashcam, I have already made a video for that. I'll put a link to it in the description down below, as well as links to the different FineVu dashcams in case you guys want to check those out. So with that being said, let's get started. And I have connected to the dashcam and I can access the settings by tapping on that settings icon. And the first setting is microphone. If I turn that off, the dashcam is only gonna record video. It will not record audio. If I wanted the dashcam to record video and audio, I'm gonna turn that on. And the next option is sound.
2, 3, 4, sound off.
Which, as you can see, allows us to turn the volume up, but also allows us to turn the voice prompts completely off. The next option is time. This dashcam is able to pull the date and time directly from the GPS, but it is important to tell it what time zone you are located in. If you set the incorrect time zone, it is possible that the dashcam can potentially set the incorrect date or incorrect time. We also get a summertime adjustment. If you happen to live on a state that observes daylight savings time, you can turn this on or off to compensate for that hour change. Next up is environment. And here we can change the default Wi-Fi password, and we can also change whether we want kilometers per hour or miles per hour to be used. We can also choose whether we want the speed to be shown on the video that is recorded, and if we don't want to have our speed capture on that video, we can turn that function off. Next, we have rear record direction. We have standard or horizontal, and let's go back to the camera view so we can see what that function does. And here's what the rear camera looks like. Now let's change that setting to horizontal. Notice that the orientation of the car has changed. The car has essentially been flipped horizontal. So that's what that function does. I normally leave mine on standard. Next up, we have security LED, and here we get the choice of off, always, of parking. There is an LED located in the main dashcam and an LED located in the rear camera, and we can select for those LEDs to be off, or we can select for those LEDs to be always on if you want to bring attention to the dashcam and the fact that the car is being monitored. And you can also select parking, which is going to turn on the LEDs only when the dashcam enters parking monitoring. And finally, we can also adjust the brightness of those LEDs. We can turn them off completely, or we can bring them up to level 1, level 2, level 3, or we can have them set to auto so the dashcam decides how bright they should be based if it's day or if it's night. Next up is camera. The very first option is HDR, which is high dynamic range. Turning this function on allows the camera to record bright images when there is also dark images present, so I like to keep this function on. We are also able to adjust the brightness of the rear video. If we find that it is too bright, we can decrease the brightness. If we find that the video for the rear is too dark, we can increase the brightness. I like to leave mine on standard. Next option is memory card, and here we can select how the dashcam should partition the memory card. And by this, it means how much of the memory card is going to be allocated to driving video and how much is going to be allocated for other things, such as a potential car crash or things that were captured during parking monitoring. And here you can select the ratio. In this case, for example, 70% is going to be allocated to driving, 10% is going to be allocated to potential car crashes, 15% is going to be allocated to events that happened when the car was parked and it was detected via movement, and 5% is going to be allocated for car crashes that happened when the car was parked. And notice how those percentages changes depending on how you want to partition the memory card. Notice that if you select driving only, you have effectively disabled parking monitoring, because now we are saying we want 85% of the memory card to be dedicated to driving and 15% we want to have reserved for car crashes that happen for driving. notice that there is no mention of parking events or parking motion. So I would only recommend selecting this one if you're looking to disable parking monitoring. You'll also notice in the bottom we get override protection. The dashcam is recording all the time and eventually is gonna run out of memory. At that point, the dashcam begins to overwrite the oldest videos first, leaving you with the freshest video. However, if there was a car crash and you did not download that video of that car crash, you can potentially eventually lose it, and here you can select to protect those particular videos. If you wanted the dashcam to never overwrite an event video of what it believes is a car crash, you can turn that on. And the same thing for parking monitoring. If you want to have all the videos that were captured during parking monitoring protected from being overwritten, you can enable that. Now you want to be selective about this because remember, the dashcam is going to make an attempt to know when you got into a car crash. But it is possible that you're going to record a lot of false events. There's probably a loud car that passed by with a loud exhaust, and during parking monitoring, you capture that. And if that guy keeps passing by your house every day, you're going to end up with a lot of false alerts. And enabling this to stay protected means that the dashcam is gonna get filled with false alerts. So you only wanna select the ones that really matter, because otherwise you're gonna lock out most of your memory card. And the next option is record. And on the very first tab, which is called driving recording, we get 3 choices of how the dashcam should record when we're driving around. The very first option is standard, like a normal dashcam, normal video. The next option is gonna be smart time lapse. And this is where this dashcam really shines, because if we enable a smart time lapse, now we can capture many hours of us driving around in a time lapse. But if for some reason we get into a car crash, that particular section of the video involving the car crash will not be in a time lapse, it will be in normal video so we can see the details, and after the car crash, the dashcam returns to time lapse recording. Additionally, we can also select 15 frames per second, which is basically a normal time lapse without the smart function. Next up, we have event sensitivity, and this is the G sensor of the dashcam that allows it to detect when you get into a car crash, so it can flag the video for you and you can find it a lot easier in the future. And we get 3 choices of sensitivity: low, middle, or high. However, it is possible that if you set it at the highest setting, going over a speed bump or potentially even just closing your door may make the dashcam think that you are getting into car crashes left to right, and now you're gonna have a lot of false car crash videos. So here I recommend that you experiment with your vehicle to find that sweet spot where you're not gonna get too many false car crashes. I personally like to run mine on low. You could also turn off the G sensor and the dashcam is not gonna know when you get into a car crash. I don't recommend that. I recommend to at least at the very minimum to run this on low. Next up is anti-flicker. The dashcam is recording video at 30 frames per second. However, if I turn this function on, now we're gonna limit the frames per second to 27 frames per second. More frames per second is better, so I do not recommend turning this function on unless you are seeing a lot of flicker on the video that you recorded. I haven't seen no flickering on my video, so I leave this function off. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we also have another setting, which is recording quality. And here you can select standard or high quality. A standard is gonna allow you to fit more into the memory card by sacrificing some video quality. High quality is gonna provide you with the best image, but it's gonna take up more space in the memory card. I personally like to leave mine on high quality. Moving over to the second tab, parking recording, what most people know as park monitoring. And the very first option is motion detection, where the dashcam is gonna record anytime it sees movement. And you are able to select how sensitive for the dashcam to be to movement. We have low, middle, or high. Now, in addition to motion detection, the dashcam is also gonna capture if somebody impacts physically the vehicle, and you are also able to increase the sensitivity of that. So here I recommend experimenting again with your vehicle to find that sweet spot where you're not gonna end up with too many false alerts. And the next parking monitoring function is smart time lapse. And here's where this dashcam again really shines, because you are able to record a time lapse when the car is parked but if somebody were to impact your vehicle, the dashcam is going to switch to normal recording, normal video recording, so you have more detail, and then finally return back into time-lapse monitoring. And if you did not need that smart time-lapse and you just wanted a normal time-lapse, you will want to select 15 frames per second. And finally, we get a power saving mode, which allows the dashcam to monitor the vehicle while consuming the least amount of power possible. And the way that this works is that the dashcam is only going to turn on and record video when it senses an incident has occurred, such as somebody impacting the vehicle. And the next option is voice guide, which are the voice prompts that you hear when I change something on this dashcam. Now right now, even though the voice prompts are enabled, we don't hear them because I turned the sound off. But if I turn the sound on, now you hear those voice prompts. And here you can customize what voice prompts you want to hear. Next up is ADAS Safe Driving. And this is the Advanced Driving Assistance System, which allows the dashcam to help you as you drive by giving you different voice prompts. The very first one is FVMA, Forward Vehicle Moving Alert. Sometimes we are parked at a stoplight and next thing you know, the car has moved and we haven't realized that the car has left and we're standing there and somebody's gonna honk at us. If we have this function on, now the dashcam can alert us that the traffic in front of us is moving. Next up is Lane Departure Warning System, where the dashcam can potentially alert you if you start to veer off your lane. And you can select at what point should that system kick on. You can have it kick on at 40 miles and up, 50 miles and up, or 60 miles and up. We also get a time notification where the dashcam is going to tell you it's 5 o'clock, it's 6 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock. If you don't care to hear that, you can turn the time notification off. And finally, we also get speed camera notifications, mobile camera alert, and driving rest notification where the dashcam can tell you every so often to take a break from driving. But again, it is important to point out that if the volume has been turned off, you are not gonna get any of these prompts. So if you wanna use ADAS, make sure that you enable the volume at a particular setting where you can hear it so you can use the ADAS system correctly. But there's one more important thing about ADAS and safe driving, and that is calibration is required. We have to tell the dashcam where is mounted on the vehicle. And let me show you what the calibration process looks like if you want to use ADAS. I'm going to go into live view, and when the dashcam is mounted on the vehicle, I'm going to enter that live view and I'm going to tap the icon on this lower corner. And you'll notice that the dashcam is going to begin to walk us through the process of aligning and calibrating the camera for use in ADAS. First, we get to select what type of vehicle we're driving, and then all we have to do is follow the prompts to adjust the camera and adjust the settings to make sure that our ADAS system is calibrated correctly. Next up, we have power, and this pertains to parking mode. We know the dashcam can monitor your car for many hours when it's parked, but it's gonna do so by pulling power from your battery. And at some point, the battery can be drained if we keep pulling power from it. So here you can tell the dashcam at what point to stop using power from the battery based on the battery voltage. And the highest, most conservative setting or safest setting is gonna be 12.2. The most aggressive setting and most risky setting is gonna be 11.6. But you'll also notice that we get 4 additional choices in the bottom that are applicable to hybrid vehicles. In hybrid vehicles, 13.4 is gonna be the safest setting, and 12.8 is gonna be the most aggressive or riskiest setting. Now, if for some reason your dashcam was not connected to the battery of your vehicle, if it was connected to a dedicated battery where you did not care that it drained the battery, you can select auxiliary battery. And it tells you right here, be careful because now you are telling the dashcam, record as long as possible at the expense of the battery. So do not select this unless you have a dedicated battery running your dashcam. And finally, you can turn off the parking monitoring function by selecting off. And we also get a cutoff time settings, which is essentially a timer for parking mode. How long should the dashcam monitor your car for? Now you may be wondering, why do we have a timer if we already have a low voltage cutoff? Well, you can think of the low voltage cutoff as the very first safety against draining your battery and leaving you stranded. the timer setting is going to be your second safety. So this essentially gives you two chances to avoid having your battery being drained. And finally, we get a dashcam reset option. If for some reason we change something on the dashcam and we don't know how to return it back to normal, we can always reset it to its factory settings so it behaves like when it was brand new. But there's one last thing that I want to show you on this app, and that is this little arrow right here that brings you to the update settings. If you turn on update notifications, you will be notified when there is an update available for the dashcam. And as you can see, there are several modules that can be updated. They have the speed camera database that can potentially be updated. You have firmware that can potentially be updated, dashcam languages, and the app. So hopefully now you know how to use your dashcam to its full potential by customizing it with the FineVu app. Remember, I put a link in the description down below to this dashcam in case you guys want to get one, including the full video review if you guys want to check that out first. And if you guys have any other questions regarding the app, please put that in the comments down below. If you found any part of this video helpful, hit the thumbs up button to support the channel, and stay tuned as I have a lot more dashcam videos coming up. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.